This video, I'll be going through the top 5 things to look forward to in the story of Spider-Man Miles Morales. At number 5, we have Rio Morales, or better known as Miles' mum. She'll be playing a major role within the story, almost like an Aunt May role to Peter, but now for Miles. We know that Rio has become a politician and is campaigning, I assume, to run for mayor. Insomniac's Daily Bugle news promotion on PlayStation's official website goes through what she is doing as the game begins. Her main point of running is to go against Roxxon, the major tech company that's moved in and set up base in Harlem. However, her main motive she actually describes in the post, saying, "I do this for my friends, neighbors, and most importantly, my son. I want to show him that just like his dad, we will fight to protect the ones we love and for what's right." Now, if you guys remember back to pre-Spider-Man PS4 days, you'll remember that Brian Intihar and Bill Roseman was always talking about how the best Spider-Man stories are when Spider-Man's world and Peter's world collide.
When Peter makes the connection that the leader of the Inner Demons is the guy who my aunt works for, we got the perfect collision of those two worlds.
I think this is exactly what they're doing and what they're going for, but obviously for Miles. This means that Miles' personal life and his superhero life will collide, and how will that happen? Through none other than his own mother, Rio Morales, who has gotten herself tied up with Roxxon and will inevitably get caught in the fight between the Underground and Roxxon. This will not only add an extra dimension and layer to the story, but it will make it very personal, knowing that his mother, his only parent left, is potentially at risk with the war that is happening between these two groups. Also, the Daily Bugle post talks about an opposition who is supposedly a strong competition and also happens to be a Roxxon advocate. As far as I know, we don't exactly know who this figure is, but they could potentially play a role and might even be the villain in the story for Miles 2, which would make the story quite complex, multi-dimensional, and especially personal. At number 4, we have the Tinkerer. Now, I can already bet that the Tinkerer is most likely not the final big bad villain. In my opinion, the Tinkerer is probably the Mr. Negative to this game, a major part of the game for sure, but only as a bridge to the bigger evil that Miles will have to face. The reason the Tinkerer is an interesting character is because she is an inventor. In a Game Informer article, it says she has invented a new technology called programmable matter, which is a tricky substance that can transform into any shape. This Tinkerer uses this programmable matter to create several weapons that will undoubtedly force Miles to think creatively in combat. So this will for sure be an interesting mechanic to go up against in the game. We don't have any exact information on how this technology will be used against Miles. It'll definitely create some tricky situations and fun combat missions. This article also says that Miles goes up against the Tinkerer several times throughout the game, and so every time will probably be different and harder than the previous. One of the more important things to note is that both Miles' mum and the Underground are against Roxxon, and so you have a common enemy, but the Underground are also a gang, and this is why we'll see Miles getting really caught up in this war, creating almost a love triangle or lack thereof. It's again a perfect setup for the collision of two worlds. At number 3, we have the Prowler. The Prowler in this game could go either way. He could be the big bad villain at the end, or maybe he isn't even a villain at all. The Prowler, you guys would know, is Uncle Aaron, or Miles' uncle. The reason he is such an interesting character is because Uncle Aaron loves Miles, but the Prowler is a villain to Spider-Man. So again, you have the collision of two worlds. I think I'm seeing a pattern here. Now, a lot of us will be familiar with the twist where Miles would discover that his uncle is actually the Prowler, because we saw it in the Into the Spider-Verse animated movie. Is it possible for us to see that same twist? Maybe. Would it be as effective as it was in the Into the Spider-Verse movie? Probably not. It'll most likely not have the same effect because we'll be expecting it, and it'll be quite predictable if they did take that exact route. For this reason, I do think it's reasonable to think that the Prowler won't be the exact same character from the animated movie, and that Insomniac will most likely do something new or do something different with him. Then again, they could take the position they did with Doc Ock, where we know he is going to descend into a villain, but they use it to make it more emotional to us, and so that we really connect and that we don't want him to sort of descend into this villain. We don't really have much on the Prowler, and what we've seen is from a side mission or an activity with Uncle Aaron, and also a small Prowler icon in the minimap of the gameplay from the Spider-Verse suit. The side mission has a small description saying, "Subways are down, see me at the East Harlem stop, Aaron." Now from this, it does sound like that they're probably going to try and fix the fact that the subways are down, but it could just be that they are trying to meet in the subway tunnels like they did in the Spider-Verse movie, and having the subways down allows them to do that. Not much to go off of with the Prowler. At number 2, we have Genki. Genki. The reason I put him at number 2 is because he's going to have the pivotal partner slash side character role for Miles. For me, Genki is that character that's going to be both MJ and Yuri from the first game, but for Miles, meaning that Genki is going to let Miles know of most of the crime that's going to be happening around the city like Yuri did, but also do a lot of that detective work to figure out what's really going on, just like MJ did. Another aspect of Genki is that he is also an engineer. He's going to be helping Miles a lot with his tech, presumably gadgets and suits, and so that in and of itself is a pivotal and important role he'll have to take, and it will inevitably impact the story. Genki also develops an app with Miles that allows civilians in New York to report crime, and this allows Miles to know exactly where crime is happening and to be able to respond to it. We saw this in action in the form of side missions or activities, but there's also a tab for general crimes happening around the city. We haven't really seen much of Genki. We did see a scene of Miles suiting up and Genki with him. Presumably this is a suit that Genki had made or helped make for Miles, and that Miles is going to be putting on for the first time. We don't know which suit it is because in the trailer it was a Spider-Verse suit, but obviously the Spider-Verse suit isn't a main story suit, and they're just wearing the Spider-Verse suit in that specific cutscene. And at number 1, the most important and biggest aspect of the story is going to be Miles' actual growth and development throughout the story. This is incredibly important because it's what the entire story is going to revolve around. We didn't get a kind of origin story with Peter, we got an experienced Peter Parker becoming greater. This story is about Miles becoming Spider-Man, but more importantly, it's about Miles becoming himself, becoming his own Spider-Man and doing it in a way that suits the character that is Miles Morales. The tagline for this game is #BeYourself. The last game was #BeGreater, and so this tagline is obviously commenting on how this story will revolve around Miles becoming his own Spider-Man. Insomniac have actually said in an interview that Miles' web swinging develops across the game as he gets more skilled and experienced. This is probably just one aspect that improves throughout the game. He himself probably gets more skilled in every aspect, such as combat. Remember that Peter is not actually in this game much at all. He will be in the first mission and that's it. He's leaving, he's going to Symkaria, he's leaving Miles to battle with the city and allow him to grow into his own superhero. Evan Falaka and Degenerate J also talked about this in a collab of theirs, link in the description, where they're hoping that Miles can differentiate himself from Peter and not be attached to him, just like how Tom Holland's Spider-Man is so attached to Iron Man. This game's main litmus test for a successful storyline is going to be whether or not they can create a Miles Morales that grows and becomes his own Spider-Man and does not linger in the shadow of Peter Parker, like the MCU Spider-Man still in my opinion is in the shadow of Iron Man. I trust Insomniac to truly develop an amazing story, and since their tagline is #BeYourself, it does seem like that is the most central concept, and hopefully they do Miles justice. If you've made it this far, chances are you probably enjoyed or found this video interesting, so please do subscribe because over 90% of you that are watching this video right now are not subscribed, and so I bet you aren't subscribed. It's completely free. If you don't enjoy my future uploads, you can simply unsubscribe later. Also, again, if you did enjoy, then do leave a like on the video, it helps out a ton, and be sure to comment down below what you're looking forward to the most in regards to the story of Spider-Man Miles Morales. One more week to go, guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one.